Lakers and Bucks both go down in their initial playoff games in the NBA to 8th seeds. How concerned should we be with both of these teams? Which one are you most concerned with? We're going to talk about that. How about with the NFL starting up in a couple weeks? Chris and I break down all of our division winners in the AFC tonight. Monday, we're going to hit all of our NFC picks. Be ready for that. Also, if I said Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, Jose Canseco, A-Rod, and Mark McGwire all mentioned during the steroid era, should these names be considered for the Hall of Fame? We're going to get into that tonight. You found the show that helps you be smarter than your friends when it comes to sports. Let's start the show.
You're tuned in to the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
Hey, you found us here on YouTube as I'm drinking my drink from last week, my Alizé. It's the first round, talking about everything going on in the world of sports. Doing it on a Thursday night, which is a fairly busy night. As he joins me on my left every single week for the last year is Chris Roberts. Chris, talk to me. What's going on?
Oh, man, just glad to be back. I'm looking at all of this parity that's going on in the NBA. Wondering what's really going on in this bubble. I mean, you have all these teams that are actually losing. I mean, they're supposed to be the favorites. What's going on?
Do you ever just like pinch yourself and thank God that you met me at one point? Like a week and a half ago, our whole discussion at the beginning of the show was there's no one dominant.
I know, right?
There's no one dominant in the NBA. I mean, this is what's so crazy about it is when you think about it, the East is the weakest conference and the dominant teams are in the West. Right. And then when you look at how the bubble has played out and now 2 and 3 games into the playoffs, the dominant teams in the whole NBA are all in the East. Yeah. And in the West, isn't it true? I mean, am I crazy? But can anybody win it at this point?
I mean, at this point,
West.
At this point, I think so. I mean, you just look at Portland and look at what Damian Lillard's been doing over the past few weeks. And so, I mean, you look at Damian Lillard, you look at Dallas. I mean, you see these teams actually coming together and they're actually winning in the parity. There's no home court advantage, so anybody can win it at this point.
I totally agree with you. This is how I felt for the last week and a half. I think it's just parity, mediocrity. The teams that are looking good are the Celtics right now in Toronto, and Miami's looking okay, but they're playing against an Indiana team. We'll get into all that later in the show, but right now, let's get into the biggest things going on in the world of sports, and we've got to start right there in the NBA. Celtics, Raptors, and Miami all looking good as we start the NBA playoffs. How about the Lakers, Philly, and Indiana? They're 0 for 5 right now in the playoffs. And if you're a Laker fan, how concerned are you after that first loss in Game 1 to Portland? All three of us are going to get into that. How about Dallas and the Clippers? Dallas puts it to the Clippers last night. Kristaps Porzingis comes back, 23 points. How about Luka Doncic going off for 28 points? They take care of the Clippers, 127-114. And again, I keep using this term. If you're Doc Rivers, how concerned are you? And if you're a Clipper fan, how concerned are you? Dallas isn't a rollover team, but you guys aren't looking very good right now when you should be gaining momentum and going in the right direction. They're going in the direction of mediocrity to me. They were trailing by 17 in the second quarter, and the Clips were down by 18 in the fourth quarter. Can't be happening when you're trying to win a championship. We'll talk more about that. Who looked even worse than the Clippers was the Los Angeles Lakers last night, who go down to Portland 100-93. Los Angeles, how about 5 for 32 from the three-point line? That's less than 15%. Outside shooting is going to make them or break them, and if LeBron doesn't have people he can facilitate to that are going to knock down shots, it's not going to happen. Now, a lot of Laker fans are going to have their finger up in the air right now saying, but Ron, what about Denny Green? Well, he went 2 for 8 from the three-point line. That's not going to get it done. How about the field goal shooting for the Lakers last night? They go 34 for 97, less than 35% shooting from the field. That is not going to get it done. They're playing the hottest team right now in the NBA. Portland is looking really good. And to Chris's great point, Damian Lillard is playing out of his mind. How concerned are you if you're a Laker fan? All three of us are going to get into that. NFL news, Lyle Collins, right tackle for the Dallas Cowboys, gets into what is called a major car accident reported by ESPN's Ian Rappaport. How about that coming on top of even worse news? Defensive tackle Gerald McCoy tears his right quadricep tendon, out for 2020. He's already been cut by Dallas. Their defensive line is starting to go into that B to C plus range. This isn't good news if you're a Dallas fan, but don't worry, because in the offseason, don't forget, you signed Andy Dalton, so your Super Bowl hopes are right there still. As long as he's healthy, you still have hope. League comes out today coming off of the announcement from Roger Goodell that there'll be no radio or TV people on the sidelines in NFL games this year. Even more so than that, he takes it another step further and says no mascots, no flag runners, and no cheerleaders. At least give me some cheerleaders. You tell me those cheerleaders don't socially distance 6 feet when they're out there anyway? Come on, Roger. We work hard every week. We want to see some legs and some cheerleaders for our teams. He says it's not going to happen in 2020. Good news out of Major League Baseball. Cal Ripken Sr. comes out and says he had surgery in March for prostate cancer, that he's 100% free right now. That's great news. How about the San Diego Padres in Major League Baseball news? The last 3 days, 3 grand slams in 3 consecutive days. They've taken down the Texas Rangers. How about the fact that they're 14-12 right now? If you had told me that the Padres were going to be 14-12 before the season started, I'd give you $100. They're tied for second in the NL West right now. Only 4 games behind the Dodgers. We'll get into that. Moving on to college football. Notre Dame suspends practices Thursday and Friday. 5 players tested positive for COVID-19. 6 others are in quarantine right now. How about the job that Notre Dame and a lot of these colleges are doing? They've administered, just since June 18th, 851 tests, and they've only had 9 positives. I think that's a great job. Other college football news that coming out of the Big Ten. Penn State head coach James Franklin says, quote, "I'm extremely frustrated with the lack of communication from the Big 12 concerning the shutdown of football for the fall of 2020. I can't blame him. Chris and I are going to get into that. There's a lot of college football stories that we're talking about as far as logistics, who's going to be tailgating, how many people are going to be allowed in the stadiums, and this whole thing with the Big Ten, it gets worse from here. Also, college football news. Are you ready for another quarterback named Manning to come through on college football? Well, you better be. Peyton Manning and Eli's nephew, Arch Manning, is the number 1 rated quarterback, according to 247 Sports. Currently, he's playing in high school, obviously, in Isidore Newman High School in New Orleans. He's got commitments right now from Alabama, Georgia, Tennessee, LSU, everybody in the South, most of the teams in the North, and most of the teams in the Pac-12 who really did terrible last year. This kid's the number 1 quarterback, so I hope you're ready to hear the word Manning. And are you ready to party? If you're from Florida State, if you're an alum, if you follow them, if you like Garnet and Gold, if you live within 200 miles of Tallahassee, they gave you a green light go today because Florida State administration comes out and says, tailgating, 2 thumbs up, grab your beer and pom-poms. They're the first school to allow tailgating. Before the games, they're allowing everybody into the parking lots 3 hours before the games. There's going to be other protocols and distancing. I don't know how that's going to work out, but we have one school who's voted to party. Caesars Palace comes out and sets the book for all the first games of college football this year. How about Alabama, 21.5-point favorite over Missouri? Now, most people that know college football say that's not a big deal. How about the fact they've been favored in 67 straight games? 67. Think about that. And the one they weren't favored in, it took them to 139 out of 140 of their last games they've been favored in. The main reason for that, I know, is recruiting and Nick Saban. Nick Saban's one of the best recruiters. I would love to hear his pitch when he walks in and talks to mommy and daddy about bringing their kid to Tuscaloosa. ESPN releases their latest college football recruiting rankings for the 2021 class, and guess who's number 1? It's old Uncle Nick. Ohio State brings up number 2. How about Tennessee? 3 years in a row with a 5-star recruit. Good job, Rocky Top. They've got 21 commitments. Clemson comes in at number 4. And my mighty Florida Gators are ranked number 5 in ESPN's latest college football recruiting poll. And Chris, that's everything going on in the world of sports. What stands out of all that to you right now as I give myself a little bit of libation?
Everything that stands out to me is I'm ready for college football. I'm ready to possibly go to a tailgate at Florida State. check out one of those games this season and just to see what Mike Norvell is going to bring to the table.
Which is the bigger party? What happens in the stadium or outside the stadium before the game? Now, I mean, that's a legitimate question.
It's definitely going to be outside the stadium.
Outside the stadium. There's already anarchy in the wide receiving ranks and the coaching ranks with Florida State and Mike Norvell. So it's a minor thing. I'm not going to make a big deal out of it. But I'm going to agree with you right now that the bigger party is definitely going to be happening. The last couple of years, I could just sum up Florida State when they're playing Clemson. They're down 52-0 at home, and ESPN is showing that professor up in the top nosebleed seats reading a book.
Yes.
Nobody within, a zip code of the guy.
Right.
And this was a home game.
Yeah, I mean,
against the top 5 ranked team.
This is what happens when you start getting beat and your team gives up on you. I mean, I believe it too, man. I'm going to watch the next game at Hobbit Hoagies. I mean, get me a beer. I mean, get a burger.
Just the fact that I got Chris to admit that his team has given up the last couple of years, that just made my day. So let's get into the NBA. We'll be joined in a minute by the newest guy on our staff who filled in for you admirably last week, Joe Monroe. My bad. Monroe. That's not the Alizé talking. I've only had one sip. For some reason, he's trying to get off of the team because we're not going to go to him yet, but he's wearing a jersey that I'd like to light on fire while he wears it, and I'm just going to leave it at that. So, NBA right now, we're talking about the playoffs. Celtics off to a great start, but they're playing a dysfunctional team, so I'm not going to put too much into that with the 76ers.
Right.
They've pretty much blown them out. They're up 2-0. Raptors got off to a great start in Game 1. They ended up winning Game 2. They're up 2-0. And how about the Heat? They're up 2-0 against Indiana, which is, out of those 3 series, I think the closest matched one.
Right. I mean, look at that game. It was a closely matched game. Just looking at the game earlier today, Miami, the game was kind of close, and then Miami kind of pulls off at the end of the game. So with, the addition, you have Jimmy Butler down there to kind of lead that team on. I think Miami has a chance to go on a run, but definitely be taken out in the second round.
If you're a Bucks fan, the Bucks lose Game 1, Series 1 of the playoffs to a Magic team that doesn't have any right to even be in the playoffs right now, quite frankly. On a scale of 1 to 10, how concerned are you?
I'm not concerned at all.
I give it a 1.
I give it less than a 1. I mean, that game was a fluke. I mean,
it was.
Orlando basically shot lights out. I mean, they were 50%. They had 50%, shot 50% as a field goal range. They shot like 40, like almost 50% from the 3-point line, and then they shot like 96% from the free throw line. I mean, that is almost like the perfect game.
Yeah, that's not going to be happening every single night in the bubble. I mean, that was an absolute bubble, and our producer, Zach Alicia, is back there going crazy over his Orlando Magic. Just let that go. That was your playoff, right? There was your Super Bowl right there. Let's talk about the teams that aren't doing very well, and I want to get into the Lakers in a minute, but, we talked about Philadelphia. I mean, it's time to get Ben Simmons out of there. It's time to get that coach out of there. Indiana, I just think they're overmatched when it comes to playing the Heat. I think the Heat are just more talented.
Right.
I actually said the other night, I think the deficiency with the Heat is actually Eric Spoelstra. He's never proven anything outside of LeBron James to me. I think with the team that they've got there, Jimmy Butler's scoring, giant.
Right.
Bam is going to give you 20 minutes and 15 points. I think they have a solid team. Those teams, though, the Lakers, Philly, and Indiana, I don't know if it's even at a point where I'm going to be concerned because Philly's going to be out in 4 or 5. I think the same for Indiana. They might squeak a game out just because of the Oladipo factor, but they're missing Sabonis, their center, and that's a huge thing. Then on to the Lakers. This, honestly, if we're just talking man-to-man, their loss to Portland the other day, it's not a freak thing, and I don't think it's that much of a shock. Because we talked about how they weren't peaking at the right time. They didn't have that killer intensity. They weren't playing motivated ball. And this is what ends up happening. They dropped Game 1, and frankly, they looked terrible in that game.
Yeah, I mean, you go back and I look at that game. The Lakers really didn't lead. I don't think they took a lead until I think it was around like the third quarter. That's when they took like their first lead. And so when you look at that game, they went back and forth, and you're thinking, okay, the Lakers are actually going to pull this game off. However, they actually found a way to lose that game in the fourth quarter. I mean, I just don't get it. I mean, you had Melo had 11 points. You had Melo actually playing defense. He actually played defense on LeBron and actually had LeBron turning the ball over.
I saw it.
Melo plays defense, so this is just letting you know this is not a fluke. Portland is for real.
Yeah, honestly, I agree with both of you. Damian Lillard has been playing lights out. I mean, I don't know what I saw down the stretch with Melo and then Gary Trent hitting that big three. I don't know. I'm just a loss for words right now. It's only game one. I was hoping Rondo was going to come back, but I guess that's not happening.
Joe, Rondo can't be
the
the answer that you're waiting for, honestly. I mean, he's had a cup of coffee with 15,000 teams in the last couple of years. The bottom line is what we've been talking about the last couple of weeks is LeBron needs outside shooting. When he was with the Heat, he had an outside force in Mario Chalmers. He had Mike Miller. He had Haslam who could step out and hit a 15 or 12-footer. He had D. Wade who could hit the outside shot. When we look at the Lakers right now, you've got Dion Waiters on the wrong side of 33. He's not reliable. You've got Caruso. He goes for what, 1 point or two the other night?
2 points,
Either way,
yeah.
it's pathetic. If Danny Green doesn't show up, which he went 2 for 8 in that game, that's it. You sunk my battleship right there. You got to have the outside shooting. And here's the big stat that was so telling. 5 for 32 from three-point land. That's 15%. And what's even worse than that is they go 34 for 97, which is less than 36% from the field. See, if they don't get that outside shooting fixed, we got to be realistic about how much inventory and how many chips we're pushing into the middle of the table with the Los Angeles Lakers right now.
The fact that KCP went, he scored 1 point, in 29 minutes really concerns me. He went 0 of 5 from 3, 0 of 9, 0 of 9. I mean, he's their 3-point shooter. Him and Danny Green. Outside of him, I don't know who else would be it.
So we gave our picks in this beginning series on Monday, Chris. I had the Lakers in 7. So I'm going to give you a chance one game into it, having seen everything that's led up to it and game 1, which was the Lakers' loss. Who's your pick in that series and why?
I can go with the Lakers in 7. However, this is the caveat. Anthony Davis can't go 8 for 24 again. He can't do it.
Can't happen.
I mean, you had Anthony Davis missing point-blank shots right there at the rim. You had Anthony, he ran down the court. He basically took some of the defense off of LeBron, but he cannot go 8 for 24. That cannot happen again. LeBron needs that 1-2 punch, just like he had in Cleveland when he had Kyrie Irving that gave him that offensive spurt. He needs that other player that could play with him to actually be able to get them over the top of this game.
But he actually had outside shooting there. He had Love who could hit the outside shot. He had a healthy, playing every single day, J.R. Smith
right,
who could hit the outside shot. I don't see that team with this the Lakers right now. And I've said I'm not sold on Frank Vogel, but you can overcome that if you have talent. The problem is when you look at their bench, they don't have outside shooters. And Joe, I don't want to hear about Kyle Kuzma. He's either 25 points or he goes 3 for 79 and he scores 6 points. He's bipolar. I can't count on him. When it comes to playoffs, I need I need to know I'm getting what I'm getting out of you. I need to be able to count on you. And when I look at this Lakers bench right now, it's bipolar. Who can I count on?
It is bipolar, and what it boils down to is how badly the Lakers actually missed out on free agency. When you go back and you look at all the free agents they missed out on, they missed out on the wrong, the good Morris brother. They missed out on him. He's down there at with the Clippers.
Right, they couldn't land Kawhi.
Right.
Magic went and met with him personally. Couldn't land him.
Right. So you start looking at all of those free agents they missed out on. It's now coming back to bite them when you're playing a talented team like Portland.
Right, but this is all water over the bridge. Joe, what's the answer? On a scale of 1 to 10, first of all, how concerned are you? Because you are a Laker fan.
Yes.
And 2, what's the answer? You can't just say, well, they got to pick up their outside shooting. I mean, we saw last night, it's not there. And this has been consistent in the bubble, not just the other night against Portland.
Ron, you have to hit your free throws. AD and LeBron can't miss 4 straight free throws down at the end of the fourth quarter. It just can't happen.
Yeah, did you see that? Did you see LeBron miss 2 free throws in a row?
Well, I mean, what's new?
I almost threw a brick through my TV, and I hate the Lakers.
But what's new? I mean, LeBron does this. I mean, when it comes down to some of these games down the clutch, I mean, LeBron has never been the dominant free throw shooter. He's never has.
Right. It almost seemed like he was disengaged towards the end of the game. You can't let Carmelo hit a 3 like you had on the end there.
So
and then let alone Gary Trent too. You can't score 93 points and win that game. It's not going to happen.
Is it just me, or are you guys seeing LeBron taking plays off And here's the thing I really can't stand. Look, I'll say LeBron is one of the top 2, if not 3, best players in NBA history ever. But one thing that bothers me from a leadership standpoint is they brought him in to win championships, not to win division titles. And how many times do we see something not go his way, and it's this? Oh. And he's standing around making a scene with the referees while the play takes off. And we saw this 2 or 3 times in the Clippers game last week where he's crying about something. It's like, dude, get your head in the game. You're one of the top 2 best players ever. 2, 3. You can't be doing this.
But then, Ron, that just goes back to the culture of what basketball and how it's changed. I mean, you go back and you look at James Harden. He does the same thing.
That doesn't make it right.
Yeah, no, it doesn't. Like I say, it goes back to the culture change in the NBA. I mean, you go back when Michael Jordan played. Okay, they knocked Michael Jordan on the ground. Okay, get up. We're going right back down the court.
Right.
And so, I mean, these guys, to me...
That was a lot more physical era back then.
To me, these guys have gotten soft. To me,
I completely
soft.
agree.
I mean, these guys need to go back to how it was when they played on the playground, where you skinned up your knee, you got up, dust yourself off, went back down the court.
Yeah, 1 to 10, Joe. How concerned are you right now? 10 is like you're hitting the nuke button.
I'm hitting about a 7 right now. If they continue that outside shooting as poor as they are, I don't see them winning this.
How concerned are you if they go down 0-2? Do we start talking about this is real?
I'm very concerned. There's no home court advantage either. There's no going back to Staples Center. There's no going back to Portland. It's all right
Chris,
there in the
they
bubble.
go down 0-2. Do we start talking about it's over? Just because Portland is so hot, and Damian Lillard has to be the hottest player in the NBA right now.
I can't necessarily say that it's over. I mean, because
it's definitely uphill.
Well, it's not necessarily uphill. I mean, because really, when you look at the
down
stats,
0-2 and you're playing against Damian Lillard and the hottest team, and it's not uphill.
But you look at the stats from that game last. Look at the game the other night. Portland didn't shoot too much better than the Lakers. I mean, they only shot 39%.
Okay.
So I mean, it's not necessarily technically an uphill game. But what has to happen is the Lakers have to get plays from their role players. I mean, Caruso can't just score 2 points. KCP can't score just 1 point. Danny Green just can't go 2 for 8. You have to get these players, at least 3 or 4 players in double figures with LeBron and AD in order for them to win this series.
Look, I'm the last one to complain because I hate the Lakers. I hate them so much. I don't want them to win. But I do want to see good basketball. I am going to keep banging the same drum. I think it comes down to outside shooting. If they can't get facilitators on the outside perimeter hitting their shots, I think they could be out in the first round. Another team that I think there's got to be a level of concern for, and I'm going to go to Joe on this, is the Los Angeles Clippers, the other LA team. I think they look good in the first game against Dallas. Kristaps Porzingis goes out with 2 technical fouls and doesn't play most of that game, so that had to be a factor. Comes back and scores 23 points. Luka Doncic goes for 28 points. I think he's one of the best young stars in the NBA, and I'll keep saying that. The problem I had with the Clippers, and if I'm concerned, is Paul George goes 4 for 17 from the field. That can't be happening. I mean, he walked all the way around the barn when he could have just walked in the front door. When you have a bad shooting night like that, bad things are going to happen, especially when in the second quarter you're trailing by 17. In the fourth quarter, you're trailing by 18. And what is Doc Rivers thinking when he's sitting on the bench seeing this happen? Paul George goes 2 for 10 from 3 points. He only chips in 14 overall points in 32 or 34 minutes. I don't know if I'm hitting the panic button on the Clippers right now as much as I am the Lakers, because the Lakers are going up against the hottest team. But the Clippers are going up against a pretty good team, and I love Luka Doncic.
Yeah, Ron, I'm really surprised about how the Mavs have been playing. We know Luka's been great all year with 17 triple-doubles. Porzingis, it was a blessing in disguise that he was able to come back from the bubble or to the bubble and play. And they've gotten a lot of productivity from their bench so far. And they're 2 players that Porzingis and Doncic, they played really well.
Chris, how concerned should I be about this loss yesterday? Because I think Dallas is for real. They're a talented team. Their problem is they blow leads in the fourth quarter more than anybody other team in the NBA this year. And they almost did it last night.
Well, if I'm a Clippers fan, I'm starting to not get too worried, but the yellow light is coming on with the Clippers. Again, to me, with the Clippers, it comes back to these guys actually being able to play the game and actually get into a flow of the game. We know the Clippers are known for their managing their players. And again, this is something we discussed a few weeks back when it came down to these players. Kawhi has to get in there. He has to get a flow. Paul George has to get in. He has to get into the flow of the game. When you're playing playoff basketball, it's a whole different ball game. The game is more physical. The referees call things differently, and you have to be able to be focused and ready to go. If you're not, this is what you're going to get.
Maybe it's just me last night, but I just didn't feel like the Clippers had any poise. They weren't playing like. I mean, am I wrong? You guys can chime in whenever you want here, but they didn't seem like they had that aura of championship. Like, you get behind. Okay, I expect that. Every team gets behind, but the championship teams buck up and make a run and then, choke out their opponent. But I just didn't see that last night. I didn't see them falling apart. Even though they went down by 17 in the second quarter and then they went down by 18 in the fourth quarter, they just didn't have poise. Is it just me, or what are you guys seeing?
No, it almost looked like, all season, just like, we've all been going off. But they looked like they were load managing last night. It just looked so flat. Lou Williams, I didn't see much of him off the bench either, which that's their number one scorer off the bench, him and Montrezl Harrell. So I'm going to pass it off to Chris. What do you think?
So when I look at the Clippers, the one thing that I see with them is that, again, it boils down to them just actually get into having a flow. They just never had that flow last night. And, I mean, to me, it's a yellow light. Doc has to find a way to flip the switch on. I mean, if you go back to last year with Kawhi when he played with the Raptors, I mean, Kawhi could have a semi-off night, but you had someone like Kyle Lowry that'll hit a big three that'll energize the crowd or energize the team and get the team going. The same thing with Siakam last year. Pascal Siakam last year. Right. So, I mean, they have to have those players that are going to be able to energize their superstars so when they're not having a good mood and when they're not having a good game. And to me, they just don't have that going for them.
Who do you got in that series right now, Chris?
Right now, I still go with the Clippers. I mean, to me, the Clippers.
What? How many?
I say the Clippers in 6.
That's what I said. I said the Clippers in 6. Moving on to NFL news, we want to start breaking down all the conferences in who we've got in the conferences going all the way across the board, north, south, east, west, and the AFC. There's some easy picks, but then there's some ones that I don't think are so easy. I want to start with my AFC East, 14 time in a row champs, the Patriots. I know. The cliff is very close. We're edging towards the cliff right now, and I'm willing to admit that. The first thing I'm going to talk about is the schedule with the Patriots. They got at Seattle, at Kansas City, San Francisco, at Buffalo, Baltimore, at Houston. Then they have to go out for 2 weeks and play the Rams and the Bolts. I think that's possibly 8 losses right there. Legit. 8 losses. Then you got a big, huge question at quarterback. Right. Are they going to go with Jared Stidham, or are they going to go with Cam? And if they go with Cam, Cam's coming off one of the worst arm injuries you can have as a quarterback. He hasn't played in over a year. And what am I getting with Cam? I don't know. And let's just keep piling on top of that and talk about the 8 players that opted out, one of them being Deontay Hightower. And if that's not bad enough, let's keep piling on even more and talk about the fact that they lost all these key players from their team last year that won the division, like stud linebacker Kyle Van Noy, like Jamie Collins. They lost Danny Shelton on the defensive line. I thought he was a stud, very effective. How about center Alex Karras, who anchored that offensive line last year? Daron Harmon in the secondary. Not a lockdown guy, but a very solid guy. And we haven't even mentioned the fact that they lost Tom Brady. So you got lost players, opt-out players. You got this terrible schedule that I think is absolutely a nightmare. And then you got a huge question mark at the most pivotal point that any team could have, which is at quarterback. So my summation of the AFC East is I'm giving the Jets a pass last year because their quarterback had mono. He was out for 6 weeks, fine. I think that the end of the season looked a lot brighter for the Dolphins, and I love where Flores has taken Miami right now, than the beginning of the season. I think the Bills are actually for real. The Bills were in the top 3 of overall defense in the NFL last year and came a frog hair away from beating Houston in the first round of the playoffs in Houston, and I'm going to chalk that up to a young quarterback. And I don't think that Josh Allen is the answer, but I think he's good enough. And I'm actually taking the Bills to win the AFC East this year.
Well, Ron, I agree with you as well. If the Bills can get Josh Allen to take that next step of passing the ball, he's a great dual threat guy. He can make plays, with his legs. But if he can take that next step offensively passing the ball, you possibly can see the Jets actually working their way up in the playoffs.
Wait, Bills or Jets?
The Bills. I'm sorry. The
Okay,
Bills.
don't say I got it.
Bills, okay.
You're about to go on double secret
Bills.
man card probation saying
Bills.
the Jets.
Yeah, you threw me off with the Jets when you talk about their quarterback.
Well,
but yeah.
Josh Allen went for over 3,000 yards last year, and then you add Stephon Diggs.
Right.
So, and some people say, well, you lost Shady McCoy. Shady McCoy's best years are in the rearview mirror, and he was a great player. But I think picking up Stephon Diggs is a big get. I think another year of experience is going to make a difference with Josh Allen.
Right.
Especially when last year he went for, I think, 20 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, over 3,000 yards passing. I just think they take the next step. And I'm going to tell you right now, the Bills are not a free spot on the bingo board, and neither are the Jets, and neither is Miami anymore. The AFC East is no longer the cellar dwellers of the NFL anymore. It's the AFC West. The AFC West is far less competitive, and I would even put the NFC East in there. Because you've got two good teams, then you got two teams that aren't even a part of the NFL anymore when it comes to the former Redskins of Washington and the Giants. The Giants are a dumpster fire. I think they should fire Dave Gettleman, but we're not going to get into that. So who do you have winning the East? You got the Bills?
I got the Bills.
I've got the Bills. Actually, you could just reach your hand into a bag and pick out any ball out of the Dolphins and Jets. I really think it's that way. I really do. I really think it's that competitive in the AFC East. Any other year, I would say the 4 games between the Bills and the Dolphins, New England will win 3 of them. I don't know if they win 2 of them. I am not sold in and sold out that Cam is the savior. I'm just not. I don't even know if he's going to be the starter. They're so high on Jared Stidham from last year. I'm not completely sold out.
Well, that's just how Belichick is. He likes to go with quarterbacks that have been in his system for a couple years now. And I wanted to say I do agree with both of you. I think the Bills probably will go 10-6. And another thing, too, for the viewers at home, they did add Stephon Diggs, as Ron mentioned. And he is one of the best young receivers in the NFL. So, yeah, I think. And they have a prolific good defense. I mean, Tre'Davious White, and they've got many other guys. So.
Yeah, their defense is not a joke. It's
No.
top 3 defense overall.
Yeah.
Scoring defense, overall defense. The Bills, they're not a joke. Moving on from the AFC East, which is sad for me because, I'm a huge Patriots fan, but we're in a new era, and we got to rebuild. I'm thinking 8 wins. If we get to 8, I don't even want to get to 8 wins. I want to get to like 6 wins. If we get to 6 wins, we're in that nice little meaty 8 to 10 section of the draft next year. We got a ton of draft picks. We sell some of them off. We move up. I know. I'm living in a fantasy world because the Patriots never move up, right, Chris?
Unless there's a potential quarterback that's coming out next year.
From Clemson or Ohio State?
I say from Clemson. The guy from Clemson fits Bill Belichick's mold.
I know. I've been tweeting out Trevor Lawrence's picture in a New England jersey.
Yeah,
it looks good. It fits tight. He's got the hair flowing like Thor.
Yeah, man. Sunshine from Remember the Titans, man. The way this guy runs, he tackles. I mean, this guy does it all.
I've never seen that movie.
Oh man, you got to see that movie, man.
Have you seen that, Joe?
Oh, my gosh. Denzel Washington?
Oh, yeah, man.
Ain't no mountain high? Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I don't even know what you're talking about, right? You're talking Chinese, man.
You have to see that movie. I promise.
Remember the Titans?
Remember the Titans.
Never
Sunshine reminds you so much of Trevor Lawrence. I mean, his arm strength, his ability to run the ball. I mean, this is one play where he's actually running down the field, like blocking, knocking everybody out the way for the guy doing a kick return. It's amazing, Ron. You got to check it out.
Denzel Washington?
Denzel Washington.
I was watching Training Day the other day. You want to go to jail? You want to go home? I am King Kong. You want to go to jail? You want to go home?
I know, right?
I love Denzel, man. Moving on to the AFC North. Now, I'm really interested in what you two characters are going to say about this, but I'll just let you. Well, you know what? I'll start it off, and I'm not gonna start with Baltimore. That's too easy. We're gonna take a little different route.
Really?
I'm gonna start in the AFC North. I'm gonna start with the Browns. I'm gonna start with Baker Mayfield. I'm gonna start with the Cleveland Kardashians, the team that talks, and you wonder why are they so popular? Why is everybody talking about them? Don't the Cleveland Browns remind you of the Kardashians? I've been calling them the Cleveland Kardashians for the last year. Baker Mayfield is my concern with this team. I know they've got a new head coach in there in Stepnotsky, and hopefully he'll bring some maturity. He'll bring some organization. He'll bring some focus, and he will change the culture of thinking. That's what you have to do when you have a losing organization, whether it's in college, pro, NFL, NBA, whatever. You got to change the culture of thinking. And that hasn't happened there. And the main reason, I think, is because the coaches they've brought in the last couple years with Jackson, and then who did they have last year?
Freddie Kitchens.
Freddie Kitchens, a high school football coach, is getting paid like an NFL coach. He dressed up like an NFL coach for Halloween and just kept the costume on the rest of the year. I'm going to tell you that right now. But last year, Baker Mayfield, 22 touchdowns, 21 interceptions, and that's not even talking about his fumbles. He is holding hands with the interception magnet, Jameis Winston. Can't be doing that. I said when they drafted him, he is short. He has had trouble with the law. He is arrogant, and I don't know what's between his head. So all of that negates the on-field talent that he might have. It just does. When you look at guys that win Super Bowls, they don't behave like this. I'm not even talking about his numbers. They don't wear Speedos, lay on top of a Bentley GT coupe next to a Lion, and make commercials in the offseason. Tom Brady doesn't do that. Peyton Manning doesn't do that. Mahomes is young, just like Baker Mayfield. You don't see him doing that. They are laser focused on winning. That's all they do. They wake up in the morning and they eat winning cereal. They're married to a winning wife and they drive winning cars, and all they do is watch winning football. And then they emulate that. And then they go on the field and do that. That's it. That's all they do is football. With Baker Mayfield, it's like romper room. It's like giving a kid who's like 13 years old all the talent in the world, and then it's like, so what do you want me to do? It's crazy. You can't expect them to win. Everybody got hyped up with Hard Knocks, didn't they? They all got hyped up. How many of you out there were getting hyped up on the Browns, just tell the truth, when Hard Knocks came out? You were buying all that stuff. You had all your chips in, didn't you? Joe's over here shaking his head. How many of you were buying that? Not me. Not me. When it looks like a duck and it quacks like an immature duck and it's never won a Super Bowl or made it to the playoffs, and it starts talking about going into Gillette at the end of November and showing the Patriots and Bill Belichick and Tom Brady what a championship team looks like, no. No, Baker, no. Can't be doing that. You're spending more time making commercials than you are watching game film. Now, let's give Baker Mayfield some credit. In the offseason, he said, you know what? I need to refocus. Chris, I'm sure you've heard these comments. He said, I've got to refocus. That's good, because you can't throw 22 touchdowns and 21 interceptions and expect to make it to the playoffs. Playoffs? You're not going to make it to the playoffs like that. What's sad about this team is they have so much talent. It's insane. They have one of the best running backs in Nick Chubb, who I think will be healthy by the time week 1 rolls around. Then you've got Odell Beckham Jr. You've got Jarvis Landry. You add from free agency Austin Hooper. He's good for 75 receptions and 6 or 7 touchdowns a year, over 1,000 yards. That's not even everybody. Your secondary should be locked down this year. No excuses. No more Cleveland Kardashians. I don't want to hear any of that. It's time to put up or shut up. But for me, it's actually time to shut up. because I'm taking Baltimore. I'm taking Lamar Jackson. I'm taking their dual threat running backs in Mark Ingram and newly drafted J.K. Dobbins, stud out of Ohio State. And you can talk about they don't have an awesome wide receiving core. That's fine. You know what I like? Guess who was number 3 in overall defense last year in the NFL? The Ravens. Yeah, that guy. Lamar Jackson, good coaching, good enough offense. It's good enough. The defense only gave up 17 points a game last year. Pittsburgh is a dumpster fire. First of all, Juju Smith-Schuster is an awesome wide receiver, but who else do you have? The James Conner project has not panned out, and I am not bad-mouthing Pittsburgh. And when it comes to winning championships and starting with divisions, you got to have a quarterback. Do you know how long Ben Roethlisberger's tooth is? He is long in the tooth. This guy is collecting Social Security. He is going to the Jewish Community Center every Thursday night and playing shuffleboard at 6 o'clock and getting the early bird dinner at 5 o'clock. He is also a card-carrying member of the AARP. If he goes down, you are hanging your division and Super Bowl and playoff hopes on Mason Rudolph. Let me say that name again in case you haven't heard it, because I guarantee you haven't. Mason Rudolph in his 3rd year out of Oklahoma State. If you don't have a quarterback, turn out the lights. The party's over. That is where the Pittsburgh Steelers are at this year. So I think it's a 2-dog race between Cleveland, who I think will be better than last year, but it all hangs on the mentality, not the talent of Baker Mayfield. It hangs on what's between his head. If he really sharpened it up in the offseason and is taking this serious, I think they're a 10-win team. But even if he has, they've got a season opener at Baltimore that is going to be 6 kinds of hell. And he's going to find out what a real defense is like. I like Baltimore in the AFC North. Joe, tell me I'm wrong.
I like the Ravens at 12-4. I like the Browns at 9-7, and I do like the Pittsburgh Steelers at 10-6.
How are they getting to 10 win? You don't have a running back.
Big Ben's gonna.
Ryan Shazier is not walking through that door, Boo.
Nope.
You got Minka Fitzpatrick, but who's your linebacker?
Devin Bush.
Okay, he's a second-year player.
Yeah, Cameron Hayward.
Cameron Hayward on the D line. Wait, we're talking about what you're hanging your hat on. You're naming guys that are like, B-plus players.
Great coach in Mike Tomlin.
No.
TJ Watt. TJ Watt,
no.
one of the best young defensive players in the NFL.
Yes, okay, no, I'm not going to give you, he's not even in the top 10 at his position, but let's just camp out on Mike Tomlin. Wait, let's camp on Mike Tomlin first of all.
Okay, go for it.
What has Mike Tomlin done in the last 5 years?
How many playoff appearances
Take as long as you want. Playoff appearances don't matter in the NFL, Joe. It's called not for long when you don't make the Super Bowl. Super Bowl. That's the only thing that matters in the NFL, Boo.
Right, but he's also been into how many AFC championships? What?
Doesn't matter. He gets beat by New England every single time, including at Heinz Field multiple times.
Right, but I mean, over the past couple years, they've had good teams.
Okay, give me your run. Who you got number 1?
Number one in the Ravens.
Okay, 2.
12-4. Steelers at 10-6.
No, can't see it, man. You got the Browns at 3.
I've got the Browns at 9-7.
So as much as I hate to admit it, I've got the Browns at 2. I just do. I know Zach's over there waving his finger, but he doesn't know spit from Shinola about anything. Trust me, Chris. I'm deferring to you to settle this argument because I have 2 myopic people that aren't breaking the Prozacs in half at breakfast, telling me that Pittsburgh with Ben Roethlisberger, one really good wide receiver, no running game, an offensive line that's collecting Social Security, and a suspect defense, I would give a C+ to, with a coach that I don't even like that's not proven, is better than the Browns. And I hate to say the Browns are better, but they're so talented with the new coach, they can't screw it up. Chris, am I wrong?
I hope not, but anyway, yeah, I definitely have Baltimore going at number 1. Definitely, the thing is I have to see Lamar Jackson actually stay in the pocket a little bit more. Besides scrambling, I hate to see him get hurt because he's scrambling too much with that. So I mean, John Harbaugh. I mean,
1,200 yards last year.
1,200 yards, but at the
That's
same,
just rushing.
that's-
Over
that's
3,000
rushing.
passing.
But again,
7 touchdowns rushing.
But again, Michael Vick had over 1,000 yards rushing. How many Super Bowls he got?
No,
So-
you're right. I am the biggest proponent of pocket
Yeah.
quarterbacks.
Yeah, so I mean, he has to be able to stay in the pocket. I want to see him mature in the pocket. I think that will be the difference between them possibly losing to Kansas City in the AFC Championship or them getting to the Super Bowl. It's him being able to be a pocket passer. But I definitely have the Ravens number 1. I have Cleveland number 2. I mean, just simply with the talent that they do have.
Right. Nick Chubb's one of the best top 5
Yes.
running backs in the game.
Right, and then
I think so too.
And then I have Pittsburgh at number 3 and Cincinnati, of course, coming in last. So I mean,
I don't. Oh, I'm so close to saying it. I mean, like, I can't talk about. I can't talk about the Bengals. I can't. I can't. We're not even gonna go there. What I do want to talk about is I want to thank our 520 subscribers. We added 7 new subscribers this week. Thank you so much for joining us here in the first round. You can join us here in the first round every single week. It's real easy. Email us. We answer questions and comments usually at least once a week. thefirstraundrd@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter @thefirstraund, the number 1. We do shows every single Monday and Thursday night. Post them those nights. And we want to thank everybody that has joined our family. We put a lot into the show. We're super glad to have Joe here joining us, chiming in with his... I would say you're an NBA guy.
I would say so, yeah.
But you're super knowledgeable when it comes to MLB also.
I love the MLB.
And then you come out with these horrendous Laker takes and Pittsburgh takes, and then Chris and I just kind of look at each other and go, how are we paying him? Is he getting paid? He's not getting paid, right? We're not paying for this?
Nah, we're not
He's
paying.
just like comic relief over here to the right?
Nah, we're not paying for this one tonight. Not tonight.
Not yet.
Not tonight.
We're going to stick with him. I have faith.
Yeah.
I have faith. He did good the other night. I have faith in him. One thing I'm going to tell you I need to have a lot of faith in is when we talk about the AFC South. Oh, gosh, I can't believe I'm actually going to say this. Okay, AFC South, Houston, Jacksonville, Indiana, and Tennessee. All right, I'm ready. I can do this. All right. Houston, great quarterback. Traded one of the best wide receivers. Picked up a running back that I'm not sure what I'm getting. And is head coached and GM by a guy who is on possibly the hottest seat in the NFL, and Bill O'Brien. He, to me, has done a grand total of zip with so much there. I believed in him coming out of Penn State. I believed in him when he was a coordinator coach in the NFL, especially with New England. But pushing that button a year and a half ago to get the GM position seemed like it's gone too far, and he's in over his head. So I'm kind of foreshadowing there. Now let's talk about the Tennessee Titans. I do not believe in Ryan Tannehill. Miami gave him $68 million for a grand total of 0 playoff wins. Nothing. Don't get me started on the Dolphins. It's half their fault. I can't blame him for signing. What I can blame him for is doing nothing. And before you Titan fans start emailing in and telling me, but Ron, they went to the AFC Championship. No, Derrick Henry went to the AFC Championship game last year. The Titans defense went to the AFC Championship game last year. Ryan Tannehill was in the caboose at the back of the bus, holding on for dear life, because he was not the motivating, overriding factor that took Tennessee to Kansas City in December for the AFC Championship game. And having said all that, I know my co-hosts are waiting to jump on this. I am taking the mighty Indianapolis Colts, led by Phillip Rivers in his 98th year out of North Carolina State, to win the division. And I'm going to tell you why. First of all, Indianapolis way overpaid $25 million a year, but the guy knows what he's doing, and he has experience. He throws more touchdowns than he does interceptions. So I'm going to give him a solid B. what I really love about them is two things. First, I'll start with their defense isn't that bad, but their offensive line is sick. Their offensive line might be one of the best offensive lines in the NFL because they were trying to protect Mr. Luck while he was there, and then he went down. Now they've got Phillip Rivers. And the other thing that I really like about Indiana and why I'm picking them to win this division, and I know I'm crazy, is their wide receivers. Paris Campbell is a speed burner on the outside. I know he's only a second-year player. Trust me on this one. T.Y. Hilton is a good NFL wide receiver. And I'm going to tell you about the next great wide receiver that none of you have heard of. How about Michael Pittman Jr. out of USC, rookie wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts? Just watch him. In his whole career at USC, I think he dropped one pass. I am not joking about that. He is big, he is strong, he has great arms, and he has speed. I am loving their wide receivers. I am loving their offensive line. It's so good. It's going to protect an old quarterback that can still get the job done. I am not saying they're going to win the Super Bowl. No. I am saying they're going to win the division. Who's the first one that's going to tell me I'm out of my mind?
I am. Yes, I'm.
Joe, you let Chris beat you to it.
Yes, I'm definitely. I'm definitely going to get.
Listen, I'm fully willing to say I'm going out on a limb on this one.
Ron, you're actually going out on a wing and a prayer on this one.
That's fine. Wait, I'm not going. I'd be going out on a wing and a prayer if I picked Jacksonville.
Oh man, seriously. I mean, you have Phillip Rivers, who's possibly the slowest quarterback in the league.
That's fine. Peyton Manning won.
This guy is actually slower than a statue. I mean,
Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl when he had a twin sub-Z refrigerator strapped to his back and 5 baby grand pianos.
But Peyton Manning also had Bob Sanders. He also had Dwight Freeney. I mean, we could go on down the list. I mean, he also had Tony Dungy as a head coach. I mean, we could go down the list.
Frank Reich's not a bad coach. I think he's a good NFL mind.
He's a good NFL mind, but I'm definitely taking Mike Vrabel over Indianapolis. I'm definitely going to go back with the Tennessee Titans. I love what Mike Vrabel's doing. This is a hard-nosed team. You have Derrick Henry. Granted, I understand that you have Mike. You had Tannehill there who possibly didn't pass for 100 yards.
Liability.
In the playoff. I mean, understandable, but.
They had a breakout section, Chris. That's it. They had a breakout section against an old New England team, and they caught Baltimore.
But Ron, they knew that they were going to hand the ball to Derrick Henry. Everybody knew Derrick Henry was getting the ball.
Right.
Nobody could stop Derrick Henry.
I'm not making excuses.
This guy's a monster.
That was last year.
Derrick
Henry was in the league before.
The same thing.
Wait, was Derrick Henry in the league 2 years ago?
Yeah, he was.
Okay, so what happened then? What's the reason then? He just had a breakout season last year. That's it.
Again, I definitely go with Mike Vrabel as a defensive mind. I mean, to me, this guy outsmarted Bill Belichick in the playoffs, Ron.
No.
Go back and look at that game. Yes, he did, Ron. Yes, he did.
You're going to say one play. You're going to say the clock play.
Yes.
No.
This guy outsmarted. He outsmarted the great one himself. His own.
No. One play does not mean you outsmarted the genius who's won 6 Super Bowl championships.
Right.
One play.
He took.
That was an old team that was beat up that didn't have any wide receivers. Don't go there, Joe. It's on you, Joe.
I don't have much to say. I just have to say Titans are going to win that division.
Give me your order.
Titans 1, Texans 2, Colts 3, and 4 Jags. What is Phillip?
Well, the Jags aren't even at 4; they're at 7.
What has Phillip Rivers done? What has he done?
What has he had?
A ton. Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Hunter Henry.
Keenan Allen
is a 1,000-yard receiver every single year.
Yeah.
He's a top 10 receiver.
Yeah.
He's really, really good. Hunter Henry, Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, stud, Austin Eckler, Melvin Gordon. They parted ways with Melvin Gordon, but I mean they've had pieces, and he couldn't get it done. They went into Foxborough in that divisional round and got smoked.
Oh, they got smoked because they went in against a superior team. Whether you're willing to give them credit or not, the Patriots were light years ahead of where they had a coach in his basically his second and a half year in coaching.
Anthony Lynn, yeah.
Yeah, Anthony Lynn was a good guy. He was way over his head at that point. You're putting a guy that's been in the NBA for about 10 seconds against Bill Belichick on the road in Gillette at the end of December. That's not happening.
No, but people tend to forget that Chargers roster that year was insane. It was Derwin James, Joey Bosa.
Wait, Derwin James was a rookie, and so
but he was still really, really good that year.
He was good, but you're talking about a guy that's a rookie. Bosa was in his first or second year that year.
Casey Hayward. They've got that.
Those guys are all pros.
Phillip Rivers could have done it. He could have.
Not on the road at the end of December with Brady in his prime and a healthy wide receiving core. You
could say the same thing for the Steelers when they went in there in that AFC Championship. When Chris Hogan was 7-11 that whole entire game.
Yeah, because they kept playing zone the whole stupid game, and they never made an adjustment after halftime, and they ended up getting blown out. How do you not make an adjustment when you're getting... Brady was going up and down the field on Mike Tomlin, and Mike Tomlin just stood there and went, like Zoink Scoob, they're playing zone.
Yeah,
come on, dude, you got to make an adjustment when it's like 55-0 at halftime, and they're just running up and down the field, and you don't make an adjustment. That's on Mike Tomlin, dude. That is on Mike Tomlin. Can't let that happen in a game like not when you're playing in the playoffs. You got to make adjustments. Look, maybe I'm out of my mind, and that's fine. It won't be the first time. Who are you taking
in that division?
Yeah.
I'm going with the Titans.
Okay, and you got the Titans.
I'm taking the Titans.
Okay, I got Indianapolis. I'm telling you right now, it's not a lock. I'm going out on a limb, and I'm saying I like Frank Reich as a coach. I like Phillip Rivers. I am not in love. I'm taking him on a date, and it's an interview. I'm going to see how it goes. $25 million is too much money for 1 year, but we're going on a date, dinner and coffee. Maybe I'll call him the next day. I don't know. We'll see. But I love their offensive line, and I love their wide receivers.
But, Ryan, you can't talk about the offensive line. I mean, this is the offensive line.
That's what everything's built on.
But this offensive line is the same line that had Andrew Luck retire. I mean, this guy
had Jacoby Brissett.
This guy was getting murdered, Ron. That same offensive line was having Andrew Luck murdered.
Okay. We'll see.
That was before Ryan Kelly got there, Alabama center. So they started to build their offensive line as Luck started to leave.
Right, and now it's a premier offensive line in the NFL. It's a top five.
It's a top 3 offensive line. You got them, the Cowboys, Eagles' offensive line's really good. So it's really that, and then New England.
I would keep New England in the top 5.
I would have said New England. Marcus Cannon's out now, and David Andrews is back. So
I've got New England in the top.
I've got New England their offensive line top 10, not top 5 anymore because Dante Scarnecchia retired.
Okay, we'll see. Look, I'm saying Michael Pittman Jr. is going to be a breakout guy. T.Y. Hilton has a lot of talent. I think Paris Campbell is a lightning speed, outside deep threat. I love him. He's only in his second year. Phillip Rivers still has enough ammunition in the gun to make it happen. He has an offensive line that's going to protect him, and their defense was about 16 to 18. So I'm not, it's not a super stretch. I'm not out of my mind completely. Don't say anything. I'm not out of my mind completely. Moving on to the weakest division in the AFC. Next week, we will be breaking down the NFC. Also, tune in with us Monday. We're going to have a top 5 best list. We haven't done that in a while, but we're going to have a top 5 best list. Joe, Chris, and I. Best uniforms, all sports, all time. I guarantee you I'm going to win. Anyway, let's go to the AFC West, and we're going to break down every single chance, all the chances for all the teams and everything. We're going to break it down real in depth right now. Kansas City wins the division. All right, moving on to Major League Baseball. Unless anybody has anything to say about that. Kansas City,
Yeah, Kansas City wins, and I love what they did by adding Clyde Edwards-Helaire as a running back there. To me, that's
bowling
additional.
ball.
Yes, great guy.
Power speed,
guy. Power
doesn't
speed.
Fumble. I
doesn't
love it.
fumble. Can catch the ball out of the backfield. Gives you everything that Shady McCoy gives you and some.
Does it remind you like Thunder and Lightning with Kareem Hunt?
Yes.
Yeah, or Tariq Hill. What am I talking about? Tariq Hill.
Yes.
Tariq Hill, Thunder and Lightning coming out of that backfield. Look, real quick, let me just give you my 2 cents worth for whatever that's worth in the AFC West. So Denver is super high on their quarterback, who's basically a first-year guy out of Missouri. I'm not sold on that. And I saw what a coach in Denver, who is a defensive-minded coach, was getting blown out with his defense last year. I don't believe in that.
Right.
Elway hasn't brought he's only brought in about 65 quarterbacks in the last 5 years. I mean, Paxton Lynch, I could just go down the list and down the list.
Right.
Until they bring in somebody that shows me that they know what they're talking about at quarterback, I'm not believing in them. Then we have to go to the ugly little stepchild in the corner, which is now the Las Vegas Raiders. Why are you giving Marcus Mariota $18 million? You know, Joe and I were talking about this last week, and Chris and I know you and I have talked about this 9 million times. If I said to you, who is the NFL coach, the NFL quarterback, who has lost the most games in his first 5 years in the NFL? Derek Carr. Yeah. They gave him what, $156 million, $148 million?
Yeah.
He's lost more football games in his first 5 years than any other NFL quarterback. Guess who's second? You know who's second, right?
Who's that?
His brother, David Carr, is second.
No.
This sums up Mark Davis, who takes over for his equally carnival insanity father, Al Davis. Committed to mediocrity. We're committed to mediocrity. They went out and gave Marcus Mariota, a backup quarterback, who has played in a grand total of 2 playoff games, by the way, $18 million. That's it. There's the Raiders for you right there. That's the Raiders. Now we can talk about the Bolts. Tyrod Taylor, junk. Running back, no idea. Offensive line, pretty good. Defense, secondary, I'll give him a B+. Everything else, it's a grab bag. I'm reaching in there. I might get bit by a snake, or I might grab a nugget of gold. I have no idea what I'm getting. And Anthony Lynn, there's not enough ammunition in the gun because Kansas City's in your division. So it's Kansas City's to win, and then throw the other 3 teams up in the air, and whoever lands first comes in second.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do, like I said, I'm going to stick on I love the Chargers roster.
What?
Yes, that roster is really, really good. Have you been watching?
Tyrod Taylor. Next.
Justin Herbert.
No, rookie. Unproven.
Oh, man, just like the Bengals are going to do with Joe Burrow.
I would do that.
Do it.
But look at what happens when you leave somebody out for a year, like Patrick Mahomes.
He was behind Alex Smith, and he was.
That's fine.
I know, but he was learning that offense from Andy
When you
Reid.
look at the matrix and all the analytical numbers of rookies that don't start their first year, they do way better than guys that get thrown in there and get overwhelmed. It's too fast. It's too complicated. Don't throw him in there. What is Tyrod Taylor? Let Tyrod Taylor get beat up for a year. Let Justin Herbert learn. Let him sit there in the film room and see all the mistakes that Tyrod Taylor makes, because there's going to be a lot. I mean, he's about 5'6". But he's never done anything. I didn't like him with the Bills. I didn't like him coming out of Virginia Tech. He is not a guy that's taking me to the Super Bowl. But I digress.
He's a game manager. I'll agree with that.
Game managers don't get, unless you have a stud defense, they don't get you. Yeah, they don't get you to the Super Bowl. But tell me why you like them.
Why I like the Chargers?
Yeah.
I'm really high strung on their roster. I mean, I don't know. What do you think, Chris? Am I going crazy or?
Please tell him he's going crazy.
I mean,
who's your running back?
I mean,
Austin Eckler.
Say that slow.
Austin Eckler. For
okay,
the
thank you.
I mean, they're going to have a solid defense, but the offense is not going to have enough to win games, and that to me, that's where the issue lies, is on the offensive side of the ball. I mean, defensively, they're going to be solid. I mean, they're going to be solid with Derwin James up there anchoring in the back. Let's say I think you got Joey Bosa and up there anchoring in the line. So solid defense, not so much an offense.
Let me switch gears real quick. So we've all got KC winning that division, obviously.
Yes.
KC comes out this week and says no headgear allowed in Arrowhead Stadium this year. If they're going to have 20%, I don't even know. Also, moving forward, no war paint. What do you guys think about that in 2 words? Go.
Chris, go.
It sucks.
Can't wear headgear, no war paint. Gone.
Taken away from the game. Fans are made up of the game. You're gonna have 22% capacity with no accessories or any paint gear. And I don't think, are they doing the horse or that runs across the field?
No mascots, no cheerleaders.
Nothing.
Thanks, Roger Goodell.
No, are they even gonna do like how they do in opening nights, the fire and they run out of do all that?
Fire. I mean, who cares if fire gets COVID?
Yeah.
I don't know. Let's go on to major. So we've all got KC. Let's go on to Major League Baseball. We're not going to actually talk. I want to go off track a little bit here and not talk actually about what's going on in Major League Baseball because there's not a lot going on. There's a trade deadline. Joe and I got into that on Monday night. What I do want to cover is a really interesting discussion that Chris and I have had off camera several times is the steroid era and Hall of Fame eligibility. And I threw out a couple of names to you guys, Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, A-Rod. We can name 50 other guys, Canseco, McGuire, Pettit from the Yankees, half the Yankees team, all the Yankees are cheaters. I hate the Yankees. Okay, I got to pull it together. Give me a second. Let's just start. Chris, you got to rein me in when I start talking about the evil empire. Barry Bonds. He played from 1986 to 2007, believe it or not. In his third to last year, he only played 10 games. There was injuries. It was, the end of the rope, but he only played in 10 games. So the argument is, are these guys in this circle that we all know what we're talking about with steroids, should they be in the discussion for the Hall of Fame? We're going to go around the room, Chris, me, and Joe. Just a yes or no. Should they be in the discussion for the Hall of Fame? Chris?
Barry Bonds, Roger
Yes
Clemens.
or no?
Barry Bonds, Roger Clemens, yes. A-Rod, no.
What? Wait. Okay, I'll get into this in a minute. Yes or no on these guys that are mentioned in this circle that you know what I'm talking about. All those guys, they're all talked about for steroids. Should they be mentioned in the same discussion with Hall of Fame? Yes or no?
Yes.
No.
No.
No. Okay, so it's 2 against 1. I win. I have multiple personalities, and Joe's been here too soon, so his vote isn't completely counting yet totally, but it will. So my multiple personalities are 5. 5-1, I win.
Well,
no, they shouldn't. Let me give you some stats before we get into it, just about Bonds. He played from 86 to 07. From 86 to 99, the most home runs he hit in those 14 years were 46, 40, and 42. So in his first 14 years in the league, 46, 42, and 40. Now, this is going to be my comparative. It's going to be the first 14 years and then after. Those are the two that I'm going with. After that, he hit 49, 73, 46, 45, 26, and 28 at the end of his career. So he jumped up to 73. How about on-base slugging percentage? The highest he ever hit in the first 14 years was 1.1. After that, he hit 1.422 or higher 5 times. 5 times. Just miraculously, as he got older, past 30, 31, 32, 33. 33 is the magic number in sports where everything starts to decline. That's what all the analytics say. But somehow he overcame that, and his on-base slugging percentage went up. Let's talk about his slugging percentage. In his first 14 years, the highest number he ever hit was .688. Highest he ever hit, 14 years. That was his best. Now let's talk about the Balco numbers. After that, he hit .863, .799, .749, .821. 200 points higher all of a sudden as he's getting older. He's getting a Social Security check. He has the walker. It's got the 2 tennis balls. He has the Knight Rider wraparound glasses, the Rockport Velcro shoes. And he's walking up there 200 points higher on his slugging percentage. From 2000 till 2003, according to the federal government, he tested positive for 3 types of steroids. Now, I'm not going to get into the whole Balco thing because that was an absolute dumpster fire. Just look at the guy's size. We have the picture up. Look at what he looked like before he was with the Pirates and then with the Giants. Look at what he looked like when he was with the Pirates and then the Giants. And how do you get older and then your head turns into a watermelon? Because he's not on drugs? So let's start here. Was Barry Bonds on doing any kind of banned HGH, creams, gummies, any banned substances that are you willing to go there? Are we in a discussion where we're saying he was on these drugs?
Yes, I mean that's fine. I'm not saying that he was.
Stop me there.
Steroids.
Hold on,
No.
I'm going to stop you just for a second. We're agreed that he took performance-enhancing drugs that were banned by the MLB.
Yes.
You're out.
Well,
You're out. And I'm gonna take 10 seconds to say why. Out of every major sport in America, the 4 major sports, NHL, MLB, NBA, and NFL, MLB is stats driven like no other. If you get to 300 wins, you're in Cooperstown. If you get 3,000 hits, you're in Cooperstown. You can't screw with history. You don't hear about NFL fans that are traditionalists. You don't hear about NBA fans who are traditionalists. And hockey, there's only 2 hockey fans, and both of them are in this room. Nobody talks about statistics with hockey. With baseball, Chris, it makes a difference. This is how we gauge our heroes. This is how we gauge our superstars. And you've already admitted he was taking illegal enhancing drugs while he was playing in Major League Baseball. Those stats get thrown out. You cheated. Therefore, you invalidated by your own choice to step out of the rules your chance to be in the Hall of Fame. And I will listen to you.
Well, when it comes down to Barry Bonds, I mean, his situation is where if you're looking at his stats, you have to be able to compartmentalize the difference between the prior to Balco and post that situation.
Why are we breaking it down that way?
Because looking at Barry Bonds' stats prior to from 98 going back to 86, when you look at those stats, some of the numbers that Barry Bonds put up, he had 3 MVPs, Rookie of the Year. He not only did he have that, he's a member of one of 4 members of the 40-40 club, 40 home runs, 40 steals. I mean, this guy did it all. Barry Bonds did everything on this team, on this Pittsburgh Pirates team. Even though they were losing seasons, this guy was still hitting 40 home runs.
But he cheated.
In San Francisco is where this
stuff can't just started there.
Again, it goes from 98 or from 99 going forward. From 98 going back, those are natural
numbers. You think it
numbers.
just started in 98? I mean, that's like walking into a warehouse and you see a rat, and I go, how many rats are in this warehouse?
But Ron, when you're looking at statistics,
it's not one. If you see one rat, there's 10 others.
If you're looking at Barry Bonds' stats prior to 1999,
go look at them.
All of his stats are basically they're
20
online.
to 30
they're
home
not.
Run. He's in the 20s and 30s with home runs with a couple 40s.
He had
14
years. He had 3 years.
3 years out of 14 where he hit 40?
He had 40.
That's
40
Hall
home
of Fame
runs.
numbers?
He had 40 3.
Come on, man.
Again, the stuff that's the stats and the things that Barry Bonds did. I mean, his batting percentage prior to going to San Francisco was actually like 2 points lower than his godfather Willie Mays. I mean, these numbers are there. Barry Bonds' numbers are there.
They won't even let Pete Rose in the Hall of Fame, and he bet against his own team. So that goes to show you how much they care about tradition for the MLB.
Yeah, he bet on them.
He bet on his own
He bet
team.
on baseball. He bet on
his
his team. He bet against his team. He lied about it for 14 years. I'm not even getting into Pete Rose.
He's
That's
not
a
getting
separate
in.
issue.
But you get what I'm saying.
Steroid people, Joe, if
Right,
you're
right,
connected
right.
with steroids, are you in or out?
No, you're out.
Roger Clemens.
Out. I don't
Manny.
care if he won 7 Cy Youngs
Manny.
or not. Who?
Manny.
Out.
Pettit.
Out.
Clemens.
Out. They're all.
Yeah.
You can't. It's not. There's no justifying the fact that you cheated.
No way.
You perform it. You use an enhancement to make you win.
Why am I going to let you into the highest
No.
Why am I going to let you into the highest possible category of what's the word I'm looking for? Acclaim. Why am I giving you the highest possible acclaim that you can have in Major League Baseball when you cheated? Get past that. I mean, tell me.
But Ron, when it comes to people like I say with Barry Bonds, the numbers he did before this whole steroid incident, whole Jose Canseco book or whatever came out, those numbers were consistent.
They were consistent, but they were consistently better than average. It's the Hall of Fame, not the Hall of Very Good.
Again, his numbers were consistent going into
consistently good.
They were consistently good, Ron. Again, and some of the stuff that Barry Bonds did, the statistics that he put up, were
Hall of Fame.
But Ron,
Hall of Fame.
But the numbers he
not
put up,
Hall of Very Good.
The numbers he put up were aligned with some of these Hall of Famers. like a couple points lower than Joe DiMaggio. I mean, we can go down the list and look at Barry Bonds' numbers.
Wait a minute, Barry Bonds pre-1999,
yes.
and you're talking about Joe DiMaggio, 56-game hitting streak. Get the hell out of here!
I said some of the numbers. I did not mention that current stat. I didn't mention that stat.
We can go to. Okay.
I didn't mention that stat. I say some of his numbers.
Let's go to Roger Clemens.
Roger Clemens.
In or out? One word. Go.
I mean, Roger, to me, they're in to me because I'm able to compartmentalize. He's in to me. He's
okay,
in.
Joe.
No, I said out. I don't care how many Cy Youngs he won or not. He's out.
But Joe, but to your point,
okay,
because we brought this up earlier.
Okay.
So if Roger Clemens is out,
yes,
how can you say earlier when we were discussing this earlier that A-Rod is in?
Wait, A-Rod can't be. A-Rod we're going to get to in a second.
Okay,
but listen,
Roger
here's
Clemens,
the deal. His strength coach, Brian McNamee, came out and said, I injected him with steroids in front of a federal investigation. His wife also came out and said she saw him injecting steroids into Roger Clemens. He injected him with HGH. He also said he was taking gummies and creams. If you're taking drugs that everyone else in Major League Baseball is not taking, you are creating an illegal, unfair advantage in a sport where we break down how much acclaim you get based on your numbers, based on your performance. I mean, like, seriously, Joe, who is the guy in the NFL who has the third most rushing yards ever?
It's not Walter Payton.
Yeah, you just made my point.
It's
you just made my point. Who's the fifth? Who's thrown for in the list of most yards ever? Who's the fifth leading quarterback?
Don't know.
Don't know.
Number one is Drew Brees, though.
That's my point, and you only know that because that happened this year.
Last year, yeah.
In baseball, this is how it works, Boopy. What you do on the field is magnified 1,000 times over the other sports. And if you cheat and you give yourself an unfair advantage when no one else is cheating or other people are cheating, then you have to separate the cheaters from the hardworking guys that are doing it honestly. And we cannot reward that. Honestly, man, like, it can't happen. Clemens, out!
Again, like I say, I mean, for me, because the way I look at it, I'm able to compartmentalize prior to all of this stuff coming out and looking at Roger Clemens and looking at Barry Bonds prior to that. I mean,
Chris, when I'm 25 years old, I go into a bank and I rob $500,000.
Right.
Then I do that for 4 years. Then the rest of my life until 40, I don't rob any banks. What am I? I'm still a bank robber! I'm a bank robber. I just haven't been convicted. I should go to jail. That's how it works in the world. This is big boy world. Like, you're starting to come off like the parent that wants to give all the kids the trophies.
I'm not trying to give everybody the trophy. What I'm saying is, again, I'm just able to compartmentalize.
Okay, let's go on to A-Rod.
So that's just the difference.
A-Rod confessed after he was trapped. Let's make that clear. A-Rod got caught. Then he confessed. He didn't come out like some good Samaritan and say, I was out of line, I did something wrong on his own. He got caught. Biogenesis Labs, all this stuff in South Florida. Again, gummies, HGH, testosterone creams. Is he in the Hall of Fame? Just yes or no? Hall of Fame?
I mean, no.
No. I say no. Joe?
No, but for the viewers at home, he is a fan favorite, so I can see him getting in the Hall of Fame down the road. As Chris said earlier.
But you have a vote. Is he going in ever in your lifetime, yes or no?
Is he ever going in my opinion, or other people's?
On your vote.
My vote. No,
yes,
he's not getting in, but the fans will put him in.
No.
He's a Yankee. He'll get in.
He's a Yankee. That means he's part of the evil empire. They're never getting in.
He'll get in.
They're never getting in. This is a Yankee helmet. That's what I think of the Yankees right there.
Wow.
No Yankees getting in. A-Rod is not getting in. And on that note, I want to talk real quick about Monday's show. Come and check us out on Monday night. We're going to be breaking down and talking about each of ours 5 greatest jerseys in sports ever. We had a great heated discussion about MLB baseball. Chris, what else besides steroids, Hall of Fame, and NFL breakdowns is going on in the world of sports?
Well, we seem to have found us a hypocrite in the Big Ten. Woo! We had the Big Ten commissioner come out and say his son Kevin would be Nope, his son would be playing for Mississippi State for the SEC. Now, this is the same commissioner that came out and told the Big Ten that football isn't safe. So why are you allowing your son to play during the season of COVID? I don't know.
I don't either. That sounds like hypocrisy. I think the Big Ten we talked about on Monday night jacked themselves over along with the Pac-12, and the Pac-12 is on a slippery slope going in the wrong direction of trying to win people over in public opinion. I mean, it's a joke. This is just another case of it. That music can mean only one thing. It's time to thank our support staff. The man on the board, Zach Alicious. The man to my right, or to my left, is Chris Roberts. The man, our new team member, Joe Monroe, doing great job the last, this whole week. He'll be here permanently, shaking his Los Angeles Losers jerseys. El Presidente Chet 40 for all of us here at the first round. Be right back here for our top five jersey breakdown on Monday. Tell your friends about the first round. Subscribe today, then immediately hit the notification button, and you will be aware of every single Monday and Thursday when we upload all of our great shows for you. Until next Monday, take care of yourselves, everybody.